Hello and welcome to another episode of A Day in the District. I'm your host, Chelsea Whittington. A Day in the District is a local program designed to help you stay in touch and informed about all the amazing things happening in your Gary Community School Corporation. I'm so pleased to welcome my colleague and new friend, Robin Sizemore, and I have to warn you, class is in session. We're going to learn a lot of terms today about social emotional learning, and I will let her introduce herself and then we will dive right in. Hi, Robin.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here.
You're so welcome. I just thought it was so important to let our viewers and our whole school community know about the things that the steps we're taking to ensure that every child in the district has his or her social and emotional learning needs met. But before we get into the details, who is Robin Sizemore?
Well, I guess I'm your social emotional learning mental health coordinator. I'm very proud to be that. I'm proud of Gary for thinking that's an important job to offer. I've been a teacher since the late 90s, taught elementary school, taught reading. In 2014, some personal events in my family happened. My daughter was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and so that led us to looking for some solutions to help her beyond medication and therapy. So she needed to learn how to help herself too, and that kind of spilled over to the rest of us. So in 2016, I started a nonprofit. It's called Superhero Training, and
I like that.
thank you. And we train students to be superheroes. We all have skills inside of us, and they all have ways that they can help each other that maybe somebody else doesn't know how to get to a person, they can. And so with that nonprofit, we started to bring some of these techniques into the school that really weren't talked about back in 2016.
Sure.
And, as we've talked about before, the pandemic brought us a lot of difficulty, but one of the positive things it brought was kind of an eye on mental health, which we're wearing green kind of for St. Patrick's Day, but it's also the mental health awareness color. So
I did not know that.
You're
also,
on board.
Score for us. And yes, I don't want to just gloss over the pandemic because it has shown us so many different things. And that's why I have a variety of guests on and we touch on their areas, technology. So we had to switch to all of this online learning. But there were a lot and are a lot of individuals who were at home alone, closed off, little to no communication, not in their usual social circles. And you know how fun school was growing up and seeing your friends and all of the extracurricular activities. What kind of impact did the pandemic have mentally on our children from a professional purview?
From a professional purview, well, I've seen both sides of this. I've seen kids really struggle with not having that contact with their friends and sports and different activities that they enjoyed. I would say personally, my children are a bit introverted, so for them it was really a smooth transition to kind of being on their own and doing their work without any outside influence or anyone bothering them. I'm sure there are some students that felt that way about it. Personally, I think that we all need as much outside contact that we can handle, because when you're spending too much time by yourself, sometimes you can start to think things that maybe aren't true, feel things that aren't so great, and it's really
kind of need
important.
that external validation to
you
say
need
the
a
sky
friend.
is really blue. Yes, it's blue.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
So
I hadn't
true.
really thought so much about that because it seems like in our fields we're always, interacting with people, and then to have that suddenly stop can be very traumatic. So let's start with our first term. I mentioned earlier that class is in session. So if you're around the district and you hear the term sell it for me.
Okay, so social emotional learning. CASEL is an organization in Chicago that's been working in this field for over 20 years. They're the experts at it. So if you want to look up a more detailed definition, I would go to casel.org. We also have some information on the website, but it's really learning to manage your own emotions, relationships, collaborating. A lot of the skills that in the past have been called soft skills, that really are the skills that employers are looking for in their employees to get along and work collaboratively with each other. So all of these things are important for our students to learn. And I will say we had a survey earlier this year through Panorama where we asked students, grades 3 through 8, what were their strengths, what were their weaknesses in this area, and overwhelmingly they said they needed help managing emotions.
Wow.
And they're looking to their teachers and family to help them. So that's what we're trying to do. Mainly that's where we're starting with
Yes. So I first encountered you when you first joined the district last year and had an open welcome reception and started to tell the community exactly what your programming was going to be, what vendors we were partnering with. And we did a couple of exercises, and I understand that this has translated over into the classrooms and even on the buses, breathing exercises. We're going to do one in the next segment, but kind of talk to me about how the children are receiving this type of learning, because it sounds a little unorthodox, but it also sounds like it's working.
Well, we're equipped with breathing the day we're born.
Right.
And one of the things that we don't learn is that it's really best, if you can, to breathe in and out of your nose. That mouth breathing can cause some problems to our health.
Okay.
So really that's what I'm doing. I'm going into schools and asking students to take a breath with me, and often they'll go and just, they think it's so funny. And so we laugh, and then I talk about, I'm going to teach you the healthy way to breathe. Okay. And it comes from your diaphragm, and we call it belly breathing. So
okay.
I can teach
and
you
that
that.
kind of sounds like with singing too, when we said to come
For sure.
from your diaphragm. That's very interesting. When we talk about having the support across the district, surely it's not just you. Are there others on your team across the district? How is that set up?
I look at my team as every employee in this district, and I have a lot of people that have approached me, number one, saying they've already been doing some of these things and asking for more information. I know that our HR department reached out to have some services for the teachers along the lines of mindfulness and yoga, and a lot of people really appreciated that and are moving toward that more holistic type of health for themselves.
Absolutely.
So, no, there are lots of people all over the district that are already really good at this because they had to become good at it in the last 2 years. So.
Yeah, the pandemic made us have to become used to this and get in the right frame of mind. You are watching A Day in the District. I'm your host, Chelsea Whittington, and I am here in session, in class, with my colleague and friend, Robin Sizemore, who is talking to us about mental health in our schools and the programs that we are implementing to ensure that every child has what he or she needs to be that whole productive student. When we come back, we're going to do some breathing exercises. We'll see you in a minute.
Don't tell anybody, but I'm a bookworm. I'm one of those very ambitious, highly motivated, overachievers you've heard about. When I enrolled in Gary Community Schools, I thought I'd be all alone. Sort of like an anomaly or a unicorn. Turns out, that wasn't true at all. There's lots of us here.
Gary Schools. Strong. Resilient. Built for education.
Welcome back to A Day in the District. I'm your host, Chelsea Whittington, and as you well know, A Day in the District is a program designed for you to stay in touch with your Gary Community School Corporation. Today, we're staying in touch with our knowledge around mental health. I'm joined by Robin Sizemore, who has recently joined the district less than a year ago, but has been making a major impact. As a result of the pandemic, we have been able to identify more of the social and emotional needs of our young people. Having been out of the classroom for more than 18 months, they returned. Robin, I will say there were some who were anxious because of COVID, staff anxious, exposure, all understandable, but we as a world are trying to move past that. And so your role is very critical when we talk about making adjustments. We talked about breathing and how important it is. And I participated in a couple of trainings and exercises around it. But I invite you to show our audience one of the quick techniques of how we
Okay.
control our breathing.
So one of the things we can do is belly breathing. So this is exactly how I teach it to the kids. And we do left and right. Sometimes that's the hardest part about it with
Okay.
them. So take your left hand, put it on your stomach, kind of around your belly button, and then your right hand's going to go on your heart. So you can try to feel your heartbeat there. And we're just going to breathe in and out of our nose. Our nose is a heater. It heats the air before it hits our lungs.
Everybody do this with me.
Breathing in and out. You can go ahead and keep going. Your nose is also a humidifier, so it adds a little moisture to the air so you don't cough. And then it's also a filter, which is really important right now. So those things that we can't see in the air that we don't want inside our body, our nose hairs filter those out. Kids love to talk about nose hairs too and look at them. So this can be fun with them. So just
This
even
is fun.
5 breaths can
5,
really
okay.
change the way you feel.
Well, thank you. I'm going to
Sure.
definitely continue to implement that, and I hope our viewers will as well. So we talked about the different areas that you serve. We have trainings and offerings for our teachers. Yoga, really? Talk a little bit about
I know.
that.
I think
That's
yoga
great.
has a bad marketing campaign for some people. Yoga, I'm yoga certified through the yoga room in Crown Point. Just
Okay.
a little clip there. But yoga has 8 branches, and postures are just one of them. Breathing,
I'm
what we
trying
just
to sit up
did.
straight here.
You know, like your downward dog and those kind of things, poses. Also, breathing, what we just did, is a part of yoga. Another part of yoga is trying not to harm people that you come in contact with. So it really teaches a lot of the things that we can use in schools. The event that we offered the teachers, it was every other Friday. It was called Pathways to Peace. So it was really just a relaxation yoga.
And they need it. Bless our teachers' hearts as they come in and day out.
For sure.
With 30, 40 different personalities in a room and work to be done and a pandemic. Yoga is the order of the day, I would think.
I think so.
to stretch it out and kind of get them relaxed. So there's another very serious aspect to this, because there are some of our young people who came back, made the adjustment, probably had been in a house with a bunch of sisters and brothers and said, good, I'm free, I'm back.
Right.
And then there are others who may have hesitancy in saying, I'm not okay. So how do we work with our teachers and administrators to identify that and then get those additional services that our students might need, whether it be therapy, just to talk to a behavior specialist, which we have in every one of our schools. But what do we do, Robin?
Right. Well, you just said it. We have the people. They're very busy and they have a lot to do. But yes, if you're a teacher that has a student in your class that maybe is quieter than they usually are, or those students that are acting out in anger, both of those ends of the spectrum are mental health issues. So speaking with your principal, the behavior specialist, the MTSS team, getting all those people together to determine what exactly it is that student needs for extra support. I don't want any of the teachers to feel like it rests fully on their shoulders. I have been called in to talk with classrooms about anxiety, for testing, that kind of thing. And I can say that sometimes it's that quietest kid in the room that's really soaking it in that needs to hear it. So I guess the advice would be maybe don't assume that they don't need it, because everybody can use it.
And I would think if they're doing that in the classroom, they might be exhibiting some of those things at home. Are there any tips that you can share with parents and guardians of things they may want to look for in the home space?
Anytime that your child's acting differently than they normally do, and sometimes it's really hard to tell, I would say that, but I think opening up the conversation to mental health, regardless of whether you think they need it or not, is probably the best bet, because at that time they're going to know, oh, it's okay to talk about this.
Yes.
And it is okay to talk
Yes.
about it. I try to talk about it with everybody I run into. And at this point in the year, I have gotten the opportunity to have adults and students come up to me and say, I really need to talk to you about something that's bothering me.
That is so good.
It's a gift.
Yes.
And I think that if anybody can find someone they can, share with, they say when you name it, you can tame it. So that's
I like
best
that. If you
advice.
name it, you can tame it. There has been particularly in the African American community, having just using the word therapy is taboo. Like, you go to therapy? You must be crazy. Something's wrong. Can you please dispel that myth for me right now about how beneficial therapy can be both for the child, the parent, and the family as a unit?
I mean, I hope I can dispel it by saying whenever you talk to somebody about those deep, dark feelings you have inside that grow when you don't talk to anybody about them, you're going to feel better, and you're going to realize that you are not the only one struggling with whatever it is that you're talking about 100%. I mean, I'll be honest, I've been to a counselor. I do that on an ongoing basis when I need to. My family does. Most people that I've come in contact to,
Yes.
when they've shared that they have something going on, I encourage them to do that. Gary has an EAP program.
Now,
That's a great place to start. The
what is
Employee
EAP?
Assistance Program.
Employee assistance, okay.
So, real easy way to jump into it at no cost to you, and find that relationship with a counselor that can help you be the best person you are. That's really all it's about.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Well, it seems like you are really transitioning into your role, and you're very comfortable in this space. And I hope this is not something temporary, right? Is this something that we are leaving in place in the district, as far as you know?
As far as I know, I'm not going anywhere.
All right. Well, I am so
Thank you.
glad to hear that. We need that, and we need these trainings for staff and students and access for parents. When we come back, we'll talk more about what other resources parents can use to keep their mental game up, if you will. You are watching A Day in the District. I'm your host, Chelsea Whittington, and I am joined by the one and only Robin Sizemore. She's teaching us all things mental health and social emotional learning right here in your Gary Community School Corporation. We ask that you don't go anywhere, and if you're looking for additional information about programs and services in the Gary schools, be sure to stop by garyschools.org. We'll be right back.
It's gross. I don't really want to talk about it.
She didn't want to at first, but I mean, it's no big deal. Everybody does it.
I was ready, totally ready, because we had been practicing this dance for weeks.
He was supposed to take this girl to this dance, but
I sprained my ankle at track practice.
I hate sharing anything personal. It's so disgusting.
For the dance, I let her wear my shoes and she hated it, but I thought she looked great in them.
he could barely even walk.
I ended up taking some pills for my pain.
Yeah, they were my mom's, but
It didn't go well.
If it's not yours,
If it's not yours,
if it's not yours,
Hey you,
don't take it.
don't take it.
don't take it.
don't take it. You won't believe what happened next.
Hello, my name is Dr. Paige McNulty. I'm the manager for the Gary Community School Corporation, and I am pleased to be joined today with the Jackson 5 family members, Tito and Marlon Jackson.
Hi,
how are you? Thanks for being here today.
Not only are we members of the world-famous Jackson 5, but we are proud products of the Gary schools.
Growing up in Gary, our school system afforded great opportunities from academics to extracurricular activities.
And today is no different. This is why we encourage you to enroll your child in the Gary schools today.
For more information, please call 219-881-5466 or visit garyschools.org. And please remember, enroll in Gary Schools today.
Yes,
That's right.
definitely enroll.
Gary Schools.
Strong, resilient.
Built for education.
Welcome back to A Day in the District. I'm still your host, Chelsea Whittington. Have you been breathing like Robin has taught us during the break? Have you been relaxing and getting in touch with your feelings? Well, that's exactly what we are talking about today, social emotional learning amongst our students in the district, our staff, and even administrators. Over the past few months since our return to the school buildings, we have placed a special emphasis on mental health for our students and staff. And Robin is just the proper person to help us through this, along with every behavioral specialist at each one of our buildings. Robin, I always think about how we would write off oh, that's the bad kid in the class. You remember how we were growing up and there was always like the class clown, the kid who likes to fight and taunt folks, and we're like, well, they're just bad. But now we are learning more as we talk about mental health, that when we dig deeper and pull those layers back, there may be more things going on in the home, in other spaces of their lives that we may not be so knowledgeable about. And so at the beginning of the show, you talked about how this came to your front doorstep as far as depression hitting your home. And I wanted to close the loop to find out what happened, what you did, and it sounds like it totally impacted your career to continue to do this for others.
100%. Yeah, I didn't just look up SEL in the paper and say, oh,
I'll do that.
I think I'll do that. It kind of developed authentically. My daughter is fine.
Good.
My daughter believes in therapy 100%. She helps others. So talk about that superhero training. She really has taken what she's learned to help others. She's in college at IU in Bloomington with my son. We're not exactly sure what her job's going to be when she's out, but she's looking into, different opportunities. She loves to travel, and there may be some overseas internship in the future. But she does. She's been to Germany already, so I really feel like she's got herself to,
Yeah, and I feel like you are the perfect testimony to that parent who may be watching right now and said, I never even thought about the mental side of it, and what do I do? So I would love for you to elaborate a bit more about any other resources that you know of, websites that you can tell parents to say, here are some baby steps you can take to broach those difficult conversations that sometimes may cause a child to shut down. Like, well, mom is asking me weird questions, and so now I have to act a certain way when I'm around her. What do we do, Robin?
Well, that's a great question. Thank God for the internet, because that's a wide open space to look for information. I know To Write Love on Her Arms was a website I used a lot. It's a mental health organization, the Child Mind Institute.
Okay.
That's a really great website for ideas about what you're talking about. All kinds of ideas there.
I think the possibilities are endless.
For sure.
And in the last segment, you said, well, if you had it your way, you're not going anywhere. So if you had a wish list, we have our behavioral therapists, and if dollars say it, grants and other opportunities, what would you add to the list to say we can expand the offerings and knowledge for our young people? Would it even be coursework or curriculum based for mental health?
Are you talking about people going into the profession?
People going into the profession.
Definitely.
Yes, talk about that then. What kind of pathways for this field?
So one of the things that I started out doing when I did this was I would go to Purdue in Hammond and work with the students before their testing. And what ended up happening was, you feel the benefits of that breathing the first time you do it. So when they felt better and were able to perform better on their tests, some of them would reach out. Professors have reached out to say, can you come to my class and teach the whole class what you're doing? So I really think that this is an area that needs to be grown at the college level.
Okay.
And it's all growing right now. All of this is happening for us quickly. I mean, East Coast, West Coast, they've done yoga, mindfulness, those kind of things for years. But the Midwest, I think we sometimes get to things later. Yeah. But I think that the students are ready. Teachers are very grateful when they're taught something simple that can be used quickly in the classroom to help. So.
And now you talked about IU and Purdue. Where did you go to school, and what
Both,
kind of
actually.
Did you? I was like, this sounds like
and
some
Butler,
Indiana love. Okay. And was your initial background in mental health, or did you study other areas?
I actually came out of IU in Bloomington with a business degree because I wanted to go into advertising.
Yes.
Did that for about 8 years in Chicago, and then one day I just felt like I wasn't making a difference in the world, and I wanted to kind of do that, even if it was in a smaller way. So I went back to, my husband's a teacher, and he was very motivating in that way. So
that's awesome.
I became an elementary teacher.
So I got to hear a little bit more about the superheroes training before we get out of here. Like, how does it work? How do you enroll? And what are some of the pillars that you emphasize?
So I'll be honest, before I got this job, I was way busier with superhero training. This job has been my superhero training this year.
You have to put on a cape to come here every day.
In the past, we did have an after-school program, and I would take about 15 students where we would work on yoga and movement and talking about neuroplasticity, which I'd love to teach a little.
Sure, we have a couple of minutes.
So we're going to shake our hands out, and you're going to do a peace sign with one hand and okay with the other. And this is from my professor at Butler, Dr. Lori Desautel's. This is going to demonstrate neuroplasticity. I've done this before, but you haven't.
Okay.
We're going to switch this one to okay and this one to peace and okay. Now we're going to do it all at once.
Oh, Lord.
So switch.
Wait a minute.
And switch. And the reason
my dexterity, because you have to really focus. Okay, so it is hard to do. It's not just me.
The reason it's hard to do it first is because of neuroplasticity. So your brain is quickly making connections. I'm not sure what she's trying to do because we haven't done this before. But if you continue practicing that, you'll get better at it, just like kids riding a bike.
Off camera, though.
Okay.
I know I look crazy on camera, but now we have another exercise. So between my breathing and what's the term again?
Neuroplasticity.
All right, class, say that. Neuroplasticity. And SEL stands for Social and Emotional Learning.
Nice job.
If you would have any final words to parents around talking to their children about mental health, talk to them and tell them the next step to take.
So I know a lot of our students are struggling with anger and not sure how to get that out appropriately. Anger is not a bad emotion. We all have it. It's a human emotion, but it's when you hurt or abuse other people with that anger that you have to be taught a different way to manage it. So I would encourage parents to not allow those things to happen at home, and it's not an angry conversation or a timeout. It's a sit down with, I can tell you're upset. Can we talk about this?
Let's talk about it.
Kind of like a peaceful corner.
I like it.
Yeah.
Peace. Peace, peace. You have been watching A Day in the District. I'm your host, Chelsea Whittington, and I have been joined by Robin Sizemore. We have learned so much about mindfulness, mental health, and social and emotional learning. We thank you for being here today, and I thank you for watching. We will see you next time on A Day in the District. WSTG TV.
Don't tell anybody, but I'm a bookworm. I'm one of those very ambitious, highly motivated, overachievers you've heard about. When I enrolled in Gary Community Schools, I thought I'd be all alone. Sort of like an anomaly or a unicorn. Turns out, that wasn't true at all. There's lots of us here.
Gary Schools. Strong, resilient, built for education.